Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Here we go again. Welcome. Your counselor, Mr. James Horton. Um, Back on the strip, out in the town, videotaping the, the going-ons and what's happening and what's going down. Again, the downs are totally different than they once were, but people are still keeping whatever motivation they can to keep themselves going out here in the Oak Town. Yeah. And as always, as I say, it pains me to see the changes of what's happening, but many of our people, man, from way back have survived, even when one would say worse times than this. We had a lady shooting that happened out in Las Vegas. A guy in his somewhat mid or early 60s decided to rent one or two, from what they say, motel rooms, decided to break windows out, and while a concert was in place, our concert was going down, this individual chose to shoot people, shoot and kill people, injured many, and we asked ourselves, what causes a person to be in that kind of state of mind to do this kind of evil? But there's many other evils that the average eye or many of the average people refuse to see or look at, very ugly. Fitting a whole lot of pain into an action. Terrible. That's not God's wishes, God's blessing. What God are some of these people serving is the question. We got to stop hating. We got to start loving. And we got to find out what love is and what that looks like. Because these things that we're doing, this way we are talking, on one hand, one could be talked about, one could be down, he doesn't feel good. The treatment that people are putting on certain individuals, and then just before you know it, overnight, when that thing seems to be blowed over, many of the people that were talked about find themselves talking about somebody else. It's like, where did this end? Where did someone just stand up and say, hey, no more? It's funny, I'm hoping there's a lot of more people that can see it like I see it. We can't get further. People cannot get further hating each other and hating themselves. We got to stop this. We got to stop this ugly thing. We got to start working together. Many of us are still caught up back in the mid 80s or the early 80s of watching the rich and famous, big old houses, and people buying giant houses and having the kind of money to be able to afford these big houses. It's so crazy, though, is that you got one person with a mansion, maybe 30 rooms, maybe 20 rooms, maybe 16 rooms, and he doesn't want nobody staying with him. He doesn't want his family members staying with him. He cuts himself off from the world. All these rooms vacant rooms, vacant rooms. And he don't even say, hey, I'm going to sleep in this room today, and next week I'm going to sleep in this room today. Oh, no, it's not about that. It's just about not wanting to work together, not wanting to work with his family, not wanting to let nobody in. All it is a big old cave as I see it. And we got to get back to where we once were. There was a time that African Americans, like you would look and see the Hispanic group, African Americans were if need be, staying in one-bedroom apartments, and there may have been 7 to 8 siblings, 7 to 8 children, 2-parent homes with 7, 8, 9, 14 kids sometime in a 2-bedroom, and they made it. They got along. And they even found some happiness within that. But as time goes on, we begin to allow the forces, the system, and, serving the wrong God divide and conquer us. And we need to get rid of that. We need to get rid of that. We can make a much more better impact in life with our own lives and with the lives of our family members and the lives of our community if we come back together. If we put stuff aside, we're going to have arguments. We're going to have disagreements. We're going to have situations where somebody's in my spot in the living room. Somebody's, I'm sleeping on this side. I'm sleeping next to the wall today. And my brother, my sister, my friend, my whoever is like, hey, man, I said I was sleeping on the wall tonight. I mean, we're going to have disagreements. But at the same time, we can get further. We can make things happen and wake up to a new day every day and just start over and make things right. Make things right. The question is, do you want it to be right? Do you want things to be better? Do you want to find out what better looks like? What better feels like? You know what I'm saying? What better is? Do you want to find this out? That is the question, because speaking in a negative term where we find ourselves speaking in it so negatively, we say things like, oh, it can never get better. Things ain't going to change. Things ain't going to be this. But doing a little history and a little background about how things once was, things have gotten better. Things might be somewhat the same in many ways, but they've gotten better. We're not sleeping in barns anymore. I mean, you're not so subjected to someone controlling your whole goddamn life. Things have gotten better. Matter of fact, a lot better. We have choices today. Today, you are somebody. Today, you come from being somebody. You come from people that were somebody, right? You come from kings. You come from queens. You come from very intellectual, smart people, right? And if you think that I'm telling a mistruth, do your studying. Look this stuff up. Look some things up. Go back in your history. Read. It's a beautiful thing to be able to read. There was a time that we wasn't able, the African-American community, the blacks in the United States were not able to even touch a book, let alone look at one. So there were things that happened. So we got a lot of freedom today. And it's like many people are not grabbing onto that freedom and not taking that freedom to this highest level. So you can blame. You can continue to blame. Sure, there's still going to be some forces against you. But don't blame that some force or that same force for everything. Blame them because you are not executing and following through on the freedom that you have. Is it someone else's fault or is it your fault? Is someone else today imprisoning you, or you imprisoning yourself? Read a book one day. A guy was speaking in a term to say that there are many prisons with no bars around them. Many prisons with no bars around them. Okay, we're going to take a break, but we'll be back. I'll be back. All right. Yours truly, your counselor, Mr. James Horton.